This weekend, Cobra Kai Season 5 drops on Netflix.
Send it to the internet!
So let's talk about it. Hi, my name is Sean, and I love to talk about movies and TV way too much. With that in mind, go ahead and join me down below in the comment section. Share your excitement level for Season 5 of Cobra Kai. If you've seen it, what did you think about it? And this is a spoiler-free review, so I won't be going into any specifics. With that said, let's get started with the good. And right off the bat, this is still highly bingeable television, where every episode tells a complete story, but right at the end, they introduce a new conflict, a new piece of information, a new twist that immediately makes you go, oh man, how are they gonna get out of this mess? How are they gonna respond to this? What's gonna happen next? It's very much the type of season where you think, I'll just watch 3 episodes tonight, and then instead you watch 7 episodes, or you complete the entire season and stay up way later than you're expecting to. Another great thing about this season is that it really moves forwards a few plot lines that had kind of been in loop the last couple of seasons, where it felt a bit like they played it out. They were repeating a few beats a couple too many times. And with this season, they legitimately go, all right, let's move this forward. We're not gonna keep hitting this same beat about this character, this relationship, this dynamic. We are going to move them forward and tell a new story with this character, introduce new conflicts for them, new people for them to have relationships with, kind of moves several stories forward that have been major elements for what's been going pretty much the previous 4 seasons. You actually see several characters in a new place interacting with each other in brand new ways, because the story and character arcs move forward in very big ways. Another huge thing about this season is this is by far the biggest stakes that the show has had, where there's a real sense of danger beyond just simple bullying, beyond just high school drama. Terry Silver, as established way back in Karate Kid 3, and then even at the end of season 4, is a very dangerous person when he's unleashed and has a goal in mind. And he starts this season based off where the previous season ended, with a lot of power, a lot of ambition, and that just means the stakes are higher and higher, and Daniel is actively trying to stop him. And Terry Silver's not a guy that if you push him, he lets you do it. He pushes back, and he pushes back a lot harder and has a lot of resources.
If you continue down this path, nothing in your life will ever be the same again.
So the stakes are much higher in pretty much every regard, of personal interactions, marriages, businesses. There's even some things that happen to people in fights that are like, whoa, they actually did that. Whoa, that's messed up. Oh, whoa, that just happened. There's a lot of that, especially as the season goes along. The finale gets intense with what happens to people in the finale. Obviously won't go into more specifics, but it just ratchets up the stakes of everything related to this show. And along those same lines, because they're taking such big sweeping gestures with some of the characters, and the stakes are so high and the drama so intense, there's big moments of satisfaction. All throughout the season, it kind of sets up these big emotional payoff moments. And, you know, with where the last season ended with Miguel going to try and hunt down his father, there's a lot of big emotions that kind of play out in that little story arc, with Daniel trying to figure out what he's going to do to battle against Terry Silver and wondering, am I doing the right thing? How do I need to stop? At what point do I need to stop? At what point is the cost too great that I just have to let him win? There's big moments of payoff. And of course, as you move into the finale and it's trying to resolve big story arcs and everything like that, you have some very cool moments for the characters in the finale. So the big emotions you want, the satisfying, the stakes, the danger, the bingeable television, it's all there. And then, as you kind of have seen in the trailers for it, you get some great Johnny moments as he is his usual politically incorrect self.
1 star because the car smelled like beer. It's because there is beer, asshole.
Not knowing about technology, amazing, great moments. Don't want to go into too specifics about this. In the last few episodes, there's a little bit with Johnny involving Rocky. Some of my favorite stuff of the entire season. That's all I will say. But man, as a huge Rocky fan, they do some stuff in one of the episodes involving Johnny. Awesome, amazing stuff that put a huge, gigantic grin on my face. And just in general, Johnny probably has the biggest single season development he's had since the first season. They've kind of done a lot of back and forth of does he want to be a sensei, does he not? They find something new for him in this season that really moves him along. And I mentioned earlier about how they had some things that were kind of going in circles. Johnny in particular, big strides forward of like doing something new and different that makes sense with what was set up. And it's able to pull together several different plot threads that have been running throughout the show in a way that makes sense as a next step for him, as well as to kind of challenge certain characters in their relationship to him. So a lot of cool stuff there. Other fun things you got to talk about in here. As you've seen in the trailers and through some of the marketing, you've got several returning characters from the Karate Kid franchise. Chosen is the one that showed up at the end of the last season and then becomes a major part of this season. There's a lot of fun that kind of comes with that, and there's a sense of history that also comes with his character. And he's not the suburban guy that decided to, start an auto parts store. Like, he's a committed lifelong martial artist, so he himself kind of brings some elevated just threat to being kind of Daniel's muscle in this quest to stop Johnny. Get some really funny moments in what they kind of do with him, as well as they do give him development and kind of a journey he's on in a little bit. It's not, he's played largely as kind of this kind of comedic muscle for Johnny, for Daniel, but there's a little bit of kind of giving him a more depth to his character as well. Now, since they didn't show Mike Barnes in any of the trailers, I can't go into any specifics about his usage in the season, but you do get some solid moments between him and Daniel processing what happened in Karate Kid 3, seeing each of their perspective on it as now middle-aged men. So there's something just very satisfying about that. I don't want to go too much into any of that, because you get some really good moments to get that perspective of how does Mike Barnes think about Daniel that summer, Terry Silver 30 plus years later. And there's a few other references back to the original Karate Kid films, couple more little surprises. Can't talk about it. There's some things I wasn't expecting that I really enjoyed what they did. Nothing super major, but something that absolutely was like, oh, this is a nice little touch. That's interesting. Oh, okay, I see how this is kind of pulling together. I hadn't thought about that. I think that kind of makes sense. Okay, yeah, I like what you're doing here. And final big thing I want to talk about here is that I think Terry Silver is the best straight up villain of the entire show, where he's this guy that's always been established as having this very dark, ambitious side to him, that when he has a goal, when he has something in mind, he just sacrifices all morality, anything to win, anything to be victorious. And I think he's more layered than Kreese is. Kreese is a much more narrow set of emotions, ambitions, attitudes, and so it's a bit more repetitive in how he kind of interacts with things. Terry Silver is more overtly maniacal, but has a broader range of how he interacts with people, and that makes him more compelling. His greater ambition, his larger resources, the more tactics that he uses of manipulation, and that he seems to really believe the end justifies the mean. And I think you understand him better, even more so than Kreese, what he's doing, why he's trying to do it, how he rationalizes all the things that he does. And he's so good at playing just like this sleazy, maniacal person that's manipulating everyone, but absolutely believes in what he's doing. I mean, very early on, I was like, man, this is the villain of this series. He might not have come in until season 4, but this is the guy right here that just plays a villain so well. He's a physical threat, but he's also a mastermind and has the resources to pull off being a mastermind. So in general, you get more of the humor, you get more of the bingeable television. It's fun to be back with these characters on another adventure. It's nice to see more of these kind of returning characters from the original trilogy of films, and it moves forward several plot lines that had kind of been circling a little bit. So it's still a show I thoroughly enjoy. Also for me, a very frustrating season that was uneven from beginning to end. So let's move on to the bad. And the big issue here, I think, is with where they left the last season, with Terry Silver winning the tournament and therefore Miyagi-Do and Eagle Fang having to shut down, and the different ways each person responded to that. Miguel didn't even finish the tournament, left to find his dad in Mexico. Johnny leaves season 4, reconciling with Robbie, realizing he failed Miguel, and wanting to go chase down Miguel to make sure that he's safe and okay. And Daniel committing to stop Terry Silver.
As of today, I am shutting down Miyagi-Do Karate.
You have this season that is just started in a place that is very far removed from what so much of this show has always been about, which is about these teenagers finding these adult mentors and senseis and the kind of high school politics that goes along with that. And you have these two kind of journeys: teenagers learning confidence through karate and sometimes finding the negative side to that, and these adults kind of refinding themselves and rediscovering their youth, processing through the trauma of the 1984 Owl Valley tournament and finding this thing that they love, with also finding the conflict that goes along with that. But now you have a season that's about Daniel off with Chosen trying to battle Terry Silver, and it's all about trying to stop his master plan, and the teenagers kind of get sidelined. They're kind of in the background. And there's stretches where you'll go like several episodes and there's really not much focus at all on some of these key characters. Like Hawk doesn't have much to do at all this season. If you're a big Hawk fan, he has his moments here and there, gets some fights, gets some moments where he's honored by his friends, and he gets things to do, but mostly he's sidelined for so much of what kind of goes on. And some of that is also, there's so many characters and plot lines going on that it'll introduce something major. There's some stuff with Johnny that's huge in the first 2, 3, 4 episodes. And then there's like 5 episodes where it doesn't go back to it. I mean, it's massive and it doesn't go back to it. And then it kind of plays in later on again. And it's just very oddly balances all these plot lines it's trying to do. So it introduces something, do 2 episodes on it, and then it disappears. Or introduce it, take a break for 5 episodes, come back to it. It's just a very odd way to structure the season, very uneven pacing, and that made for a lot of frustration. And for a lot of you, if you love the high school side of things, I don't think this will be one of your favorite seasons. If you love the high school politics, there's like episode 4 is heavily focused on that. Most of the rest aren't. If you're really into the mentoring of Johnny and Daniel teaching different groups of teenagers karate, that's not a big focus of this season. It just doesn't play out that way. There's still fights and martial arts in all the episodes, but it's not about those mentoring relationships. And that's so much of what I love about this show, are those relationships, and they're not really the focus.
You stay focused.
And so it's just very odd to have this show that was so much about about adults mentoring teenagers is now about, all right, how do we come up with a master plan to stop the other guy with the master plan, and how do we figure out what he's up to? Along those same lines, so much of the season is focused in on discovering Terry's master plan, what he's up to. And the way the season actually plays out is that you discover his master plan, but the actual resolution to the story of the season is something different. And so once again, that odd pacing, it's very uneven. They do some stuff around episode 8 and you're like, shouldn't this be the finale? And then they introduce new plot lines for the last 2 episodes and kind of go somewhere different. You're like, okay, I guess this makes sense as the finale, but it's just kind of weird the way it's structured. And that's what I felt about the whole season. It just kept doing like these 2-episode blocks about something and switching focus to this other thing, setting this thing up, and then it's like we forget about it all throughout it. Other big, gigantic thing here that was frustrating for me is that the show's always used a lot of the tactics of soap opera to kind of make it bingeable. The end of the episode reveals twists to make you go, uh-oh, what's gonna happen? But it felt a lot more earned earlier on. It was about actual misunderstandings, about different perspectives on things where people bring different histories into moments, so they interpret actions differently. They overreact, and that causes this other thing because they kind of, it's soap opera-y, but it's more grounded. Here, it felt less earned. At points in time, Daniel and Chosen are too stupid, too easily manipulated, overreact in silly ways to things. And other times, things are so exaggerated that if you thought in season 3, like, why aren't the police getting involved? There's a lot of that in this season. Like, no, why aren't the police involved? No, what if Terry Silver's as evil and corrupting the youth as you say, and this thing is expanded to the scope that it has with all of these other sadistic senseis, there would be hundreds of complaints from parents. You can't just like, yeah, he gave a great speech, therefore parents forget about what's going on in the dojo. If he was actually corrupting them, there's just a lot of things where there's lapses in logic. Police should be involved. There's stuff that happens in the finale where you go, but wait a minute, they still did break the law. But wait a minute, they still did assault people. Wait a minute, they still did. Like, there's all things that you go, you can't just ignore that. This thing doesn't undo this thing. Lot of logic like that that's frustrating. Very exaggerated things sometimes that Terry Silver does and just gets away with no reasonable consequences for what's going on, no kind of investigation. Final thing I want to talk about here is Mike Barnes, and you absolutely do get some great moments, a little bit of the stuff that you want to see from him, but his usage was very confusing for me, and it felt like there's probably something behind the scenes with his scheduling to where he couldn't do as much as they wanted to do with him. And I'm not sure what that was about, because the way they bring him in, the context, where he's at mentally, the usage of him justified story-wise more. Better use, more usage of him that would have been satisfying, would have been interesting in light of the history, the context. There's like the specific email they gave us for press access specifically said, don't go into any specifics about Mike Barnes. So it's tough to talk about it without wanting to spoil some of this stuff. They set up a more satisfying usage of the character than we actually got. And I would guess that was a scheduling thing. And that's frustrating. When you're like right there looking at it like, it's right here. That you have this perfect setup for like amazing fan service for what you could do in this moment that's earned, that absolutely makes sense, and then it doesn't deliver that thing. It's almost certainly a scheduling thing as to what kind of went on there. So a season that's very frustrating because it has all the stuff I love about this show. It absolutely does, but it's too unfocused, uneven, and just kind of disappointing for that reason. Real quick before I give you my final thoughts, be sure to join me down below in the comment section. Also, I'm going to be having a ton of Cobra Kai content over the next week. I'll have spoiler reviews, episode ranking, season ranking, character ranking, maybe more. If you've got a ranking you want me to do that I haven't done before for Cobra Kai, let me know down below in the comment section. I'd love to try and make some of that happen. Overall, the magic is still there. I still love spending time in this world. I still got addicted. I was planning on watching the season over the span of 3 different nights, and I ended up watching 8 episodes in a row on Saturday into the late night because it just sucked me and I just had to know what was going to happen next. It still has that about it. But I was also watching it being like, man, that was weird. Man, I wish you hadn't done that. That was too stupid. Why is Daniel acting so ridiculous? Why is Chosen being so over the top? Why didn't I get more of this thing? This was frustrating. I still enjoyed it, still had fun with it. I said at the end of season 3, I'm really worried that they're planning on doing at least 3 more seasons because it feels like the end of season 4 could be the natural, organic conclusion to the show. And I watched season 4 and I thought, man, this is a great season. I love it. That was cool. I love what you did there. Great, satisfying ending. Season 5 feels a little bit like this is what I was worried about. Still enjoy the characters, but there's only so many plot lines you can do that make sense with the original premise until you have to start stretching things out, heading in odd directions, and doing things that just feel like you've lost what the show was originally about. And I felt some of that here. And big moments of satisfaction, laughs, cool action, big stakes, some really cool things that they did moving certain story arcs forward, but a very unfocused season, and certainly one of my least favorite seasons of the series thus far. Still like all the seasons though. I rewatch all of them every single year. I binge the entire show the 2 weeks leading up to this season, and so I like all the seasons. So even saying one's the worst season, worst is still a show that I thoroughly enjoy. That's my take on it. Let me know what you thought down below. Be sure to check out all of my rankings starting this weekend. Let me know what additional rankings you would love to see down below in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching, and keep talking movies and TV too much. Bye-bye.